We're here again at the Fairfield Enterprise Centre in Louth, and I would like to welcome Stuart Green from the Armour Group to the Insight for Business podcast show. Thank you for joining us, Stuart.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant stuff. We'll get straight in. So I'm not fishing for any personal information on this one, Stuart, and I hope you don't mind sharing. But what was the first job you were ever paid for?
Well, the first job I was paid for, I was a paper lad. So I did walk the streets before school with my bag of papers in the northeast. But the first sort of proper job I had, I worked at a mountain equipment store in South Shields called McRed's Ramble-In.
McRed's Ramble-In?
Yeah, and it was this tiny shop. It was like a TARDIS when you went inside it. There was room for two people in the shop, but it was just packed with kit, and it was brilliant. Loved it.
I know South Shields quite well. Spent a lot of time up there visiting family. I was at Marsden Cliffs with my two boys in the summer.
Yeah,
fantastic place. At Insight for Business, we help businesses increase revenue by removing wasteful practices and leveraging value creation. To do this, I have a tried and tested process and systematic approach. What is the approach you take when analysing cybersecurity threats?
Well, you made your approach sound really difficult, and cybersecurity is far easier than that. It's dead easy. Understand the threat, assess the risk, do the right thing. Doesn't need to be any harder than that. If you understand the threat, you can accurately assess the risk. If you accurately assess the risk, doing the right thing is far easier. Simple as that.
That does sound quite straightforward. I expect there's a little more to it when you dig into each of those.
From a sort of high overview, you don't have to think about what sort of firewall do I need or what sort of antivirus do I need. You've got to understand the threat. As soon as you understand that threat, you can put the measures in place. You might not need an all singing, all dancing firewall with blue LEDs that flash. You could probably get away with an entry-level one. It depends on what your risk is, what your risk appetite is, and what the threat is to your particular business.
Is that something that the Armour Group help companies
absolutely,
with?
Absolutely,
because as I see it, it's very new to me. It's very new to the business. It's new. It's a new technology almost, and the technology plays a part in these cyber threats. And because technology moves so quickly, it can be difficult for business owners to have the right person there who can help.
It does, but we're the right people. It's simple as that. But look at everything that we've done. You were in the training session that we were on this morning, where we went through the whole cyber threat environment without even talking about technology. The Armour Group is a particular theme. We don't put any flashy computers or anything like that on what we push out there. We've got like knights and dragons and castles, because all the principles are exactly the same. They were around in medieval times. We understand about locking doors, shutting windows, building high walls, having turrets with people who shoot arrows out of it. You can't really do that these days, but in the olden days, that's what they did. That was their defence. We understand defence, getting right back to castles. So we can look at things in a very simple way, and make the cybersecurity thing far easier. It doesn't have to be in the realm of the geek.
And that did really shine through. It did feel very natural on that workshop, taking us through, leading us through with the practical examples of how to start making actionable differences, which I can take away for my business.
Yeah, that's it. From today, you'll go away and you might do one or two things, but instantly you're going to become stronger as a result. And you don't have to do everything all in a one, but so long as it's a positive part of your culture to get better and stronger and more resilient as you go, you're going to get everything nailed.
I can start it now. It can become part of the governance structure and policies I have in place. It's one of the missing links. So that's been very useful to go on the workshop and start that from today. Thank you.
That's all right. You're welcome. It's good to have you aboard.
Which is the biggest threat that individuals and businesses face?
Phishing email.
and how can that be rectified?
Accept that it's a problem. just because people get phishing emails doesn't mean you have to settle for getting phishing emails. You know, you can put defences in place that stop it. You can put defences in place that protect your staff. So even if one does make it through the filters that you've put in place and the defence in-depth strategy that you've put in place, if one makes it through, you've got a protective layer in place for your staff. So if they click on that link, goes to a portal and says, did you really want to click on this? Because this looks a little bit dodgy. Oh, actually, no, I didn't. Well, that's all right then. So, you know, having that measure in place that looks after the staff, protects the staff, you know, allows them to do things safely. Allowing people to do things safely is key, because as soon as you start blocking things and stopping people from doing it, the human mind wants to find a way around that. So let them do things safely. That's by far the best strategy, rather than just blocking everything, because then you get people who want to work around. You've just got to keep helping them to do their jobs safely, securely, easily.
It sounds like education is clearly part of
Massive.
that.
Yeah, I mean, every business should get people on workshops, you know, just run some sort of training, you know, show them what bad guys can get up to. You know, predominantly it is criminals, but you do get different categories of threat, you know, like we went through this morning. So there's lots of different ways that, you know, businesses can be attacked, but understand the threat. The more people that understand the threat means that you can assess the risks and do the right thing. It's just that simple. The more you understand the threat, the better you are.
I learned that a company or person is liable for hacking activity, which then leads to criminal activity causing monetary loss or damage.
Yeah, so cybercrime. It's the only crime in the UK where the victim's liable for the consequences. Because if your email account, for argument's sake, gets taken over, and then your email account is used to send out something malicious to thousands of people, which, you know, and then an email was generated from your account, the recipients would probably go, oh, I've had an email from Matthew, I'll open that. So they'll open it, and then that's when they get infected. But because it's come from your account, and if they suffer harm, damage, monetary loss as a result of it, it's come from your account.
I'm liable.
You're liable.
In the eyes of the law.
You didn't protect it.
And this was astounding. That the liability lies with me, and if there's one single reason to look to try and secure my digital security, that's a massive.
It's huge.
risk.
I mean, you know, this is why, you know, cybercrime works so well, because very few people cotton on to the fact that they've got to protect their stuff. You know, there are some business owners who frankly shouldn't be in business because they see the fact that the fact that being hacked is just some sort of rite of passage, and that's just what happens these days. No, it's crime. Don't accept it. You can't accept it. You can't let the criminals get away with it. You've got to get onto it and get it nailed. It was, you know, think of when we were growing up. I'm sort of putting you in the same age bracket as me. You know, one of the big things was car stereos getting nicked.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so, you know, how did we get around the fact that car stereos got nicked? Well, manufacturers cottoned onto it and sort of built them into the dash so that you couldn't really
Of course, yes.
take them from one car to another. So, you know, we've got to get on top of this whole crime thing to get rid of it, you know, push the crime somewhere else away from our businesses.
What is the easiest way to compromise my business?
You. We'll compromise you.
Compromise me?
Yeah. So, you know, there's a number of different ways we can do it, and we've got some of them on the desk here in front of us. So the easiest way, I think, is probably this one, because this is the one that we looked at this morning. So, you know, we've got here what looks like a standard charging lead.
Cable.
Yeah. You can charge your phone with that quite happily. But if you plug it into a computer, that becomes a keyboard, which can type some keystrokes as though I was sitting at your computer. So if I wanted to get in touch with you, I could drop this down, maybe just leave it on your doorstep. So as you come out in the morning, you think, dropped that last night. You'll pick it up, you'll put it in your rucksack. You might go to the office, you might plug it into your computer. I'm a criminal. I've got all the time in the world to wait for you to do that. But once you do it, it just pops up, downloads something because I've told it to. You just see something strange flicker on the screen. You think it's just been an update, but that's you being infected. So that then is the first stage of me getting into you, and that's just because you've plugged in
From a
what
small
looks like a charging
piece of
lead. Yeah.
Well, it's not even hard. Well, it is hardware in one respect, but
Yeah,
it's just a charging cable.
it's one thing that looks like another thing.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it. Another way of taking your business out. This one stays in a silver box for a reason, because it looks like. Well, you tell me.
USB dongle.
So you have a looky feel of that.
Yes.
Whatever you do, don't plug it in your computer. Don't. Don't.
It's a USB dongle.
It looks like that, yeah. But I mean, drop one of these out, and it's one of these really bizarre things that you plug that into a computer, and what you'll hear is click, 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 and then that'll be it. The computer will be dead. Lots of computers don't have any sort of inbuilt power surge protection in the USB port, so you can plug this in, and it just puts minus 50 volts straight onto the motherboard and fries the motherboard. So that computer becomes useless. So that's why it stays in this metal box, because it's pretty destructive.
It breaks computers.
It'll break anything with a USB port.
So it's not single use either.
No, this will just happily go around. We've taken out air conditioning units with this. There's videos of people on YouTube actually plugging it into a USB port in a car while they're driving it, which is insane.
My goodness.
But they're Americans. But hey, there you go. So that is a particularly lethal little piece of hardware.
That's lethal. That could have lethal consequences.
Yeah.
As a weapon, a lethal consequence.
It's a USB stick that's been weaponized, and you can get them quite easily out on the internet. I'm not going to say what it is, but
you can get them on the internet. Well,
yeah, dead easy. Costs you about £12.50. That easy. You can make them yourself. There's instructions how to make them as well. So another way, I noticed this morning that that there were a number of people who are quite keen to jump on the Wi-Fi, and I love this because, communications and radar and things like that were my bread and butter for a number of years. This one here, this is a cracking little thing which looks like a access point, and it's a wireless access point. But this is a particular sort of access point which is called a rogue access point. So this will just sort of sit there, and it will impersonate any Wi-Fi network that you've connected to. So you could quite happily come into Fairfield, and you could be sitting in reception, and we could have one of these running, and it would just eventually attract your phone and any other Wi-Fi devices onto it, and then as soon as you're on that, we can control pretty much where you go. So we can give you a page that looks like Google, that isn't Google, but says it's Google. We can give you a strange login page. We can intercept some of your traffic. We can do lots of strange and weird and wonderful things just because we control your experience right from the very start. So there's 3 different ways here that we can disrupt you and your business without really trying very hard. So we'll attack you. That's what we do, and that's the way to do it.
That's the approach that the criminals take.
You look for the soft pink sticky thing that is mostly water and has a little bit of a brain, and there we go. That's what we're going to compromise.
Me.
Yeah. It's cheery, this subject, isn't it?
Well, I have had the pleasure, the learning experience of these items before, and they're scary to be honest.
But this is how easy it is. And I mean, if you look at the way the world is at the minute, where we're in this post-COVID, new normal way of working, where all of a sudden it's really sort of quite trendy to work from home. We've got a big problem because people aren't switching from home mode into work mode. We haven't got this drive to work, we haven't got this commute to the office, so we're not switching fully back into work mode. People think it's great for the work-life balance, but actually from a business point of view, it's fraught with risk. We've got people who normally, might have done an hour and a half commute, so they were really getting psyched up and stressed and going into work. But when they were in work, they were performing well, and they were in work mode. Now they're just going from the kitchen to the study, and they're not actually making that transition. So on a lot of the phishing campaigns that we've run, over the past 18 months, the amount of people who are clicking on things that come into their work email, which normally never would, but because they're at home, they haven't made that separation. They're not actually thinking, why have I had an email from Holland and Barrett in my work email? You know, that they're not asking that question. Oh, I didn't order that, click. And that's how easy it is to sort of compromise, because people aren't thinking, they haven't got that separation in place.
Now I've had chance to go on the workshop and understand more, start looking at these risks. As soon as you mention that switch from the office, the work office to the home office environment, it makes perfect sense that there's a lack of security. There's a lack of planning that's happened. There's the eyes off the ball.
Cast your mind back to March last year when Boris got on telly and said, you must work from home. You know, there was a massive knee-jerk reaction across the UK. Right, every business opened up branch offices, and there was no planning that gone into the branch offices. Very few had a business continuity plan. Very few had a disaster recovery plan. You know, just buy a laptop, go and work from home. You know, let's move everything into the cloud. All of these things, there was digital transformation that happened on a grand scale, but there was no planning. There was no sort of risk assessment done around it. There was no sort of security concerns. Nothing was done normally. It does seem
slightly worrying. Having been on the workshop for just this morning, again, as soon as you bring that, as soon as you say that, it makes it, well, why was the risk assessment not done? Why didn't it take place?
Well, we didn't have time. You know, the lockdown was coming. No, it's not coming. Yes, it's coming. No, it's not coming. No, it's not coming. No, it's not. Lockdown. You know, we were in that ridiculous year where nothing made sense, and there was no sort of coherent plan.
The government didn't see that that the risk assessment needed to happen.
Well, did they or didn't they, or was it just incompetent? I mean, you know, this will come out in an inquiry somewhere down the line when Boris isn't Prime Minister anymore. But you know, it's this sort of problem that we've all been faced with. We've all adapted, we've improvised, we've overcome. But we've got to go back and retrospectively do that risk assessment and think, actually, is our workforce right working from home? Really, we should get them back in the office, because if they cause the problem, how are they going to feel at the end of it? You know, if they cause the breach, yeah, we're going to be liable, but they're going to be liable because it's their home network. You know, it puts lots of people in very strange positions that haven't even been considered.
Yeah, and again, taking my learning, it starts with some training, some cyber awareness. It's not rocket science.
No. Understand the threat,
awareness.
Assess the risk, do the right thing. Simple as that, all the way through.
It is a simple process.
Yeah.
It's straightforward.
Yeah.
Just one last question regarding the tech, the Wi-Fi signal. Mm-hmm. Again, I have some prior experience with this. I understand that the device, the cheat device or the spy device, can make itself more favourable to be connected to than where you're expecting it to be.
Absolutely.
Is there a way that I can actively go away and control how my phone does or doesn't access these points?
Yeah, switch Wi-Fi off as soon as you leave the house.
That easy?
That easy.
Switch Wi-Fi off as soon as I leave the house?
Yeah, I mean, that's the simplest way. You know, if you're going to risk assess it, how can you remove that risk?
Eliminate.
Well, as soon as I leave the house, if I get in the habit of switching Wi-Fi off, as soon as I leave the house, bargain, I'm sorted. You know, there are still other threats that can get you. You know, it's not the end. But against this particular threat, you know, if you don't connect to other people's Wi-Fi because you're using your data plan most of the time, use your data plan most of the time. You don't even need to worry about Wi-Fi. But it's convenient, you know, to have Wi-Fi on. It's convenient. But a lot of the time, our device just wants to get connectivity and provide us with the notifications that it wants to deliver. To download our email when we need it. You know, all of those sorts of things that it wants to do, it needs the connectivity for. So if the opportunity is there to join a Wi-Fi, I can join this Wi-Fi. It's on. It's doing what it's serving you with, and that's its job. So switch Wi-Fi off as soon as you leave the house. Easiest way to do it.
We do have some control still.
Yeah, of course you have. For every cyber attack, there is always some defence that you can put in place. But the best bet is put a number of defences in place. So, you know, if you're working from a mobile device all the time, use a VPN, connect back to a VPN. That VPN might be your home security appliance. If you're connecting back to your home security appliance and you've got a VPN connection whenever you're away from the house, that's bargain, because it means that even if you do join one of these rogue access points, your communication is going to be encrypted between your device and your home security appliance.
So use a VPN can be helpful in that defence.
But don't use a freebie VPN that's come from China, because that then is fraught with lots of other risks. So you've got to do that risk assessment. Know what it is you're connecting to, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, thanks for those pointers. Thank you, Stuart.
Welcome.
I've heard you talk about influence previously and how this can disrupt businesses' security. Can you elaborate for our viewers and listeners on this topic, please?
Yeah, I mean, we've all been subject to influence, haven't we? Cast your mind back over the last 18 months. We complied religiously with the most ridiculous of requests from the government. When you're in a restaurant, you must wear a mask when you stood up and not when you sit down. Okay, that makes sense. Our belief system and our value system have been completely altered over the past 18 months because of COVID. So look at how we've been influenced around fuel. As soon as a politician gets on television and says there is definitely no fuel problem, everyone's straight to the garage filling the car up, and the cans that they've got, and any sort of Tupperwares that they've got, just in case they might run out of fuel for the lawnmower or the car. So, we're now in this position where we've been influenced on a very, very grand scale, and we've just got to look at how susceptible we were to what happened in the past 18 months, and then we've really got to get back to grips of being normal and having normal reasoning processes and think, actually, is what I'm hearing just legitimate?
So it sounds like you're just taking that. There's a book by, is it Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow?
Yeah.
It's stop thinking so fast. Take a moment to think.
Absolutely.
Slow.
Yeah.
Engage your brain.
Yeah. Just take 5 minutes. It's like.
I suppose it's not helpful in the modern society, the society which we find ourselves living in now, where everything is.
This is true, but this is what criminals capitalise on as well. So if you look at the CEO fraud, where somebody in accounts gets an email that purports to be from the CEO, apparently is in a meeting. I'm in this meeting just now. Quickly, can you just transfer £10,000 to this account? Really important deal that I'm doing. Can you just do that? Now, most people, if they get some sort of request like that, they will comply straight away. Yes, I'll do that. But just sit on your hands 5 minutes. Just think about that. Has it come from the right email address? Is that how my boss would speak to me? Is he actually in a meeting? Just asking 3 questions like that. And no boss is going to complain if somebody rings up and says, do you really want me to transfer 10 grand to this account? And if he goes, yeah, I do, yeah, all right then. But if he says, what on earth are you on about? It's probably a good thing that you did just take 5 minutes and just check.
I recall several such episodes in my corporate career, large manufacturing companies, where those exact things have been attempted, and we've had the global email sent out just to review and warn. Again, that seems to be not quite after the horse has bolted, but it's not quite proactive, is it? Still not quite proactive that we're doing it. It's we've got a problem, right? Okay, let's put a plaster on it.
It's always reactive. Most organisations will do something after an event because they don't want it to happen again. But criminals are getting good. Criminals are getting very, very good at what they do. There's a reason it's called organised crime, because it's very organised.
And they're always one step ahead. Look, we know they're always one step ahead. We hear they're always one step ahead.
And business is
always
always
to be reactive. We want to be reactive. So what would you do to change that to be proactive? What would be
understand the threat,
steps?
Assess the risk, do the right thing. Simple as that.
Sounds straightforward.
Yeah. Just think about what's the worst that could happen. Have that Dr. Pepper moment. What's the worst that can happen? Well, someone in accounts could transfer 10 grand. Okay, well, let's get 2 signatures on the account. So make sure that we've got to get 2 signatures before that can actually happen. Make sure that there's some sort of process, procedure in place.
We have the hierarchies in my background in manufacturing, where we're controlling control of hazardous substances, or controlling health and safety risks of accidents happening. It's there. As you said, we know how to defend ourselves. It's just a new environment and a new sector to consider it in.
It is. I mean, we hear a lot of excuses when we go into organisations. I mean, some of the best ones are always given by the people who are the biggest risks, and quite often there'll be somebody in an organisation, and they'll be that person that says, "I don't understand any of this computer crap." So immediately, as soon as they say that, you know that they don't value that computer.
Yeah.
So they don't value anything that's been told around that computer. Yet that computer is going to be the thing that's going to trip the business up, because it's that idiot that hasn't got some sort of open mind to think, well, actually, I don't understand any of it, so can I learn a little bit more? Because if I can learn a little bit more, then I might understand it. I might understand how it can be a tool in my toolbox. I might understand where the threat is, because if I understand the threat, I can assess the risk and I can do the right thing by the company. So it's that mindset. You know, we've got to get that sort of EO out of the business.
Yeah, that a great point. The fixed mindset closes everything off. It closes all the opportunity for development, and we need the open mindset.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Stuart.
That's right. You're very welcome.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps up my questions for today.
Good stuff.
Unless there's anything pressing to add.
Oh, there's loads of stuff, but we've only got a certain amount of time.
Get in touch.
Yeah.
You know, one of the workshops. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Glad
I'd
you
highly
enjoyed
recommend that. Great learning for me and some great actions to take away.
Thank you very much.
Again.
No problem.